Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
Jesse Smollett's attacker has been brought to justice, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that and where that goes and what that means as we go forward into things, plus a couple other catches up on court cases that we've been watching throughout the week. In other news, a conservative group finds no widespread Wisconsin voter fraud. I promised you guys I would go into depth in this article yesterday, so I put it right up at the top of the stack for the day. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. In other news, the Ukraine tension is heating up, and so are tensions around China and the rest of the country as well. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia, where we're at with that right now, and what this could mean going forward. And Finland's PM is sorry because she went clubbing after she found out, or the COVID contact people were trying to contact her. It is going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I see a poo in my chat to start off with, and that makes me smile here. Today is also, by the way, the day that we're going to go over and look at some of the live chat for the day, too. So remember, if it gets in there, and it is, especially if it's extra spicy, if it's extra bigoted, if it's extra racist, or if it's extra stupid, it'll raise the intellectual level of this program, and of course, must get read on air. But I've also got the names of everybody who chatted in live chat throughout the week, too, so I can come back and say thank you. Thank you for taking some time on your morning to come in here, not only and watch this program, but to say hi as well. So I've got all the names in here ready to go. We will read this at the end of the show, along with as much live chat as we can get to, because, you know, you guys have been very, very busy on Fridays, and sometimes we can't get to the top, but do make sure you get some of those messages in, because if I see your name in there as well and it's something I haven't seen before, I will say hi and thank you as well. So thanks everybody in advance in case something does happen where I can't get to your chat here. And let's get down into the news, because we have got, as usual, a ton of it. But before we get started, make sure you guys go bookmark the website, TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Coming soon. New website, new aggregator, place where you can find great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Freckles and Fritz Show, and the Porch Boys. Plus, we also have ideas to have articles up to try to build a better news site, full with written articles, full with shareable articles, full of many other things that we can come out here to try to make sure that you are getting your news from people who have had to make some of the same decisions that you are, some of the people that are in the same places in life that you are, rather than going to get your news from somebody that's sitting in a 7-figure suit. So go check out the website. New fundraiser coming this weekend. So go and check that out. Looks like we're going to go with Give, Send, Go, but I'm going to make another one too, just in case there's people that are opposed for religious reasons to going for Give, Send, Go as well. So go and check that out. A lot of stuff moving here. We are going to try to go into the new year getting this started. So definitely go and check that out. TurnSomePagesProductions.com. It didn't show there because I might not have had the live chat robot up yet. I have to have that turned on in order for everything to go fall into the same place. That's probably why it didn't show up there. But all right, let's get into the news. Starting with the Dow. The Dow actually turned technically down throughout the day yesterday. It dropped it like a stone right at the beginning of the day, and it clawed its way back up as we went. And then just towards the end of the day, well, it turned, it dropped down, it tried to claw its way back up again, and it dropped down to 0.00016% down. Less than a point. 0.059 points down was the final ticker off there. So it pretty much stayed even throughout the day is where we landed through with the Dow yesterday. But given that Evergrande dropped, and I don't know if I'm even going to get to that news article today just because we have so much at the top. Look how much news we have to get to up at the top here. I don't know if I'm going to get to the Evergrande story or not, but I can tell you the Evergrande dropping is probably going to be a nice big weight on the rest of this as well as people start to realize what this means. And, well, I'm not even sure where this is going to go right now, because if this really drops this is going to take a lot of China's economy with it. So we'll see what happens with that, what goes on with that, and where that goes. Looking at your Bitcoin is at $49,120 US and 10 US cents. On the rise once again, coming back up after an intraday low of below 48,000 yesterday. So, if you're looking for Bitcoin, it's on sale right now. It's not one that I carry myself, but if you're looking for Bitcoin, it's on sale right now. And you could possibly come out and make out like a bandit off of it, if possible, if that's something you're interested in. Note, this is not official financial advice. Looking at your scrap metal prices, your copper on the average is up, steel is down, aluminum is up. Looking at your individual plays, it looks like a lot of copper has actually dropped. So I'm not sure where the average is coming from, but I see a lot of red in the copper region here. I see a lot of red in the steel region too, except for stainless. Aluminum is actually doing fairly well here. 58 cents a pound up on aluminum. Aluminum copper fin is up. Radiators are up, but cans are down. Sheet aluminum is down. Rims are down. Electric motors, ballasts, and leads are all down. Car and truck batteries are coming back up. Catalytic converters, after a week of downswings, have all turned on the upswing once again. Compressors are down, alternators are up, carbide is up, and your chip plays are all down. Hard drives, motherboards, and power supplies. So look around your house and adjust what it is that you need to bring to the scrapyard, looking at that. And this gives us an idea of where the industrials are going day to day as well. So that's what we see coming off of that. All right, let's start with IBD. Dow Jones Futures hot inflation report looms as market rally hits resistance. Elon Musk sells more Tesla stock. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Futures rose slightly Friday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, with a crucial inflation report looming large before the open. Costco, Oracle, and Broadcom headlined key earnings after the close. The stock market rally attempted and gave up some ground Thursday, with Tesla, Lucid stock, and other high-octane names leading the retreat. Costco, Oracle, and Broadcom reported earnings after the close. The Dow Jones held steady, with the S&P 500 retreating and Nasdaq selling off, with the latter undercutting its 21-day moving average. The rally attempt continues, but needs a follow-through day to confirm the new uptrend. Was Thursday just a pause or a shakeout before a strong year-end rally, or is this the start of something bigger? Ford, Tempur Sealy, Saia, Regeneron, and going back to the top, let's try this again. Ford, Tempur Sealy, Saia, Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, Pfizer, Arista Networks, and Google parent Alphabet are 7 stocks to watch. Several of these names, including Google, Regeneron, and Annette stock, have flashed buy signals this week. It's interesting what we're seeing here, too, because Tempur Sealy, mattresses, Ford obviously is cars, Saia, transport, container transport specifically. So I'm starting to wonder is there going to be an LTL or a new uptick in drivers going onto the road? Is this going to free up some of the supply chain issues? Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, of course, COVID plays. Pfizer, we know that. Arista, I don't know what that is. And then Alphabet, obviously, because you should always stick with Google. I don't know why, but you should always stick with them, especially if you're looking to make money. Several of these names, including Google, Regeneron, and Annette stocks, have flashed buy signals this week. Costco earnings beat on better than expected. Same-store sales. Costco stock rose modestly before Friday's opening. Shares have pulled back to the 21-day in recent days. Lululemon earnings topped as the yoga apparel retailer cited strong start to holiday sales, but Lululemon gave so-so guidance for the current quarter as its forecast weak. Demand for its mirror-at-home fitness device, Lulu, stock tilted lower. In pre-market trade, shares have trended lower in the past few weeks. Oracle earnings and revenue topped views late Thursday, with the software giant also setting a $10 billion buyback. Oracle stock soared 12% in extended trade, signaling a move above its 50-day line. Oracle stock is in a base but had been trending lower since late October. Broadcom topped EPS views and gave strong guidance. The chip and software giant also announced a $10 billion buyback and 14% dividend hike. AVGO stock rose 6% overnight. Broadcom stock is trading near record highs. Tesla tumbled 6.1% to 1,380, tumbling just above its 50-day and slightly undercutting its 10-week line. ARK Invest's Cathie Wood, a longtime cheerleader of Tesla's self-driving aspirations, told CNBC she now sees a 50-50 chance the EV giant will succeed. Wood remains bullish on Tesla stock. CEO Elon Musk sold $965 million worth of Tesla stock on Thursday, according to SEC filings released after the close. Tesla fell 1% early on Friday. Lucid announced plans for a $1.75 billion convertible debt offering. Lucid stock plunged 18% on Thursday to $36.52, below its 50-day line. Lucid is down 23% this week after big losses in the prior 2 weeks, following a huge run from late October to mid-November. More broadly, high-octane growth stocks struggled Thursday. That includes a number of software names that were running back after the big sell-offs in prior weeks. Tesla, Google, and Saia are on the IBD leaderboard. Google is also on Swing Trader and IBD long-term leaders. Tesla, Google, Lululemon, and Annette are on the IBD 50. TPX stock was the IBD stock of the day. The Labor Department will release the November Consumer Price Index at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Economists expect the CPI to rise 0.7% versus October. Overall inflation is forecast to heat up to 6.8%, the highest in about 40 years. That would be up from October's 6.2%, already a 30-year high. The core CPI is seen rising 0.5%, with core inflation heating up to 4.9%, a long-term high. And with the rate that this administration's been going and the monetary and fiscal policy that they've been doing, if economists are expecting 6.8%, guys, I'm sorry to say this, but we might crack 7. Just on the pattern that we've seen throughout the year. I'm not saying that's actually going to happen, but I'm telling you right now, going on the statistics throughout the year, it kind of looks like, yeah, we might see 7 at this point. The CPI inflation report comes ahead of the Federal Reserve's policy meeting on December 14th to 15th. Fed Chief Jerome Powell and some other policymakers have signaled that they'll discuss speeding up the bond taper at the meeting. With the Omicron COVID variant not seen as a major new threat, the Fed may feel it's time to step up its inflation fight. On your futures, Dow futures rose 0.1% versus fair value, S&P 500 futures advanced 0.2%, and NASDAQ 100 futures edged higher. The 10-year Treasury yield was up 2 basis points to 1.51%. Crude oil futures rose 1%. Investors aren't making any big bets so far, and with good reason. The consumer inflation report will certainly impact Dow futures and Treasury yields before the open. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, a lot of stuff that's about to change here, and we will see what happens with that. I would be curious to see what an almost 7% inflation report looks like for the markets coming into the holiday season, coming into the fact that we have massive layoffs. Once again, Kellogg's trying to replace 1,400 workers in Battle Creek, Michigan, and Evergrande defaulting on its debt. A lot of stuff happening right now, and we are only 3 weeks away from the midterms officially starting. So, good luck with that. Let's read from Barron's. Let's not, because they are grabbled and we can't read this without archiving it. Alright, let's get into the big news of the day then. Moving on, getting out of the finance here. Everybody, rest assured, sleep easy. We're going to start today with the Daily Wire. Jussie Smollett can rest, knowing that his attacker has been convicted. Social media erupts following verdict. I was looking at social media following the verdict, and I think it was more so-so than erupts. Erupts! It's so crazy! Let's read from Amanda Prestigiacomo. After actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty on 5 counts of disorderly conduct in relation to an alleged hate crime hoax he orchestrated, social media blew up with reaction. Tonight, Jussie Smollett can rest knowing his attacker's been convicted, Daily Wire Emeritus Ben Shapiro mocked. Jussie Smollett found guilty on first 5 counts, 6th count not guilty, posted the Hill Media columnist Joe Concha. Justice obviously served. Don't expect any apologies from those who brought this ridiculous take from day one, starting with the VP and ABC's Robin Roberts, he added. Jesse Kelly reacted. Smollett has lied about being a victim for the same reason LeBron James lied about it, and for the same reason Oprah Winfrey lied about it. We have so twisted in the minds of so many people in this country, they think victim is the highest form they can achieve. You haven't even seen my final form! It's a sickness. James claimed that he was the victim of racist vandalism, but the alleged perp was never found. Winfrey has come forward to admit she regretted talking about an alleged racist incident she suffered after a clerk called her a liar. So, that is the reaction to this. Let's look into the actual facts of what happened with this. Michael Tarm tweets out more detail on breaking. Jussie Smollett was found not guilty on 1 of the 6 counts, so guilty on 5 of the 6 total counts of lying to police. Reading on from CNN. Actor Jussie Smollett found guilty of lying to police on hate crime hoax. From Omar Jimenez, Steve Almasi, Bill Kirkos, and Ashley Kilo. Actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty Thursday of 5 of 6 felony counts of disorderly conduct for making a false report to Chicago police that he was the victim of hate crime on January 2019, an attack that prosecutors said he staged. The jury of 6 men and 6 women deliberated for more than 9 hours over Wednesday and Thursday. Smollett, dressed in a suit and tie, appeared rigid after the verdict was read in court late in the afternoon. He did not move and was seen gazing straight ahead. His fingers were interlaced and his hands were on the table. He didn't look at his family or the judge, instead focusing in the direction of the jury. A disorderly conduct charge for false crime report is a Class 4 felony, punishable by up to 3 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. Cook County Judge James Lynn will have discretion in imposing a concurrent or consecutive sentence for each count at a later date. Special Prosecutor Dan Webb said at a news conference that he was proud of the jury. Mr. Smollett would not have lost his case as he did today unless the jury found that he lied to them, he said. The fact that he came with a completely ridiculous story to explain his misconduct did not apparently have an impact on the jury's verdict. Webb said that he couldn't predict whether follow-up perjury charges would be filed against Smollett for his trial testimony, but said people who are convicted of a crime are not normally charged with perjury. Smollett was found guilty of disorderly conduct for making false reports to Chicago police officer Mohammed Beg and Detective Kimberly Murray on the day of the incident. He was acquitted of making a false report to another Chicago detective weeks after the alleged attack. Defense attorney Nenye Uche called the verdict inconsistent, saying the jury cannot find Smollett lied in 5 instances, but not the 6th. Uche said the defense team will appeal. Yes, of course it will. Now, looking back at the idea that most people came out and said, and this was going around. It wasn't as prominent during the Rittenhouse trial, but it was actually going around. And I saw a lot of this, but looking back to that, at the time, there were a lot of people that told us that if Mark Richards had appealed the Rittenhouse verdict on the basis or grounds of a mistrial, it was just going to be sour grapes because everybody obviously knew that Rittenhouse was completely guilty, was guilty as sin. He woke up that morning thinking that he was going to go kill black people, but Gage Grosskreutz and Anthony Huber and JoJo and Joey Rosenbaum, they all had to stand in for the black people. And it was just sour grapes. And the same thing with the Chauvin trial. There's no need to appeal. It's just sour grapes. He's just mad about the verdict that came out of this. Once again, same idea. But now, CNN, with nary a note of sarcasm or hatred, are telling us that Jussie Smollett is going to appeal the decision. It is pretty disappointing what happened, he told reporters at the courthouse, but we remain confident. We're going to come back, and he's going to be vindicated. Uche said Smollett was disappointed. As jurors were cleared and the court began to empty out, Journey Smollett, the former Empire actor's sister, was the first to embrace him. Soon after, he walked over and hugged his mother for a long time. He left the courthouse without answering questions. The next court date is set for January 27th for post-trial motions. There's a lot of stuff that goes with this. There is a ton of stuff that goes with this. Like, he's pissed that he didn't get away with what it was that he did. He's mad about that. He's angry about the fact that he didn't get away with coming back and filing this report. Because he's on the left, and he's a star too. He's not supposed to go to jail. I'm kind of glad that this happened in a sense too, because the rules. It should be a 2-tier justice system. He made this entire thing up to try to be the victim and lied to police. End of story. And that's on a story that was so on its face ridiculous to begin with. As I mentioned, on the day that this supposedly happened, the high of that day, I remember that day just because of talking about this and remembering the temperature off of it. The high of that day, the height of the temperature for that day was -7. And the low was -20. And this happened, when did this happen? Like 7 o'clock at night in Chicago, downtown. This is mega country. It's the same reason we're not seeing big protests out there. I wouldn't be surprised to see some protests come out of this, personally. But that's a big part of the reason we're not seeing big protests coming out of this, because it's cold as balls out there right now. But there were so many high-profile people that got involved in this as well. The Vice President of the United States, who's never going to see any accountability for this. Kim Foxx, the special prosecutor for the city of Chicago, is never going to see any accountability for the fact that she tried to tamper with this. So many people who tried to take this narrative right from the beginning are never going to see any accountability for any of this. But Smollett will. Yeah, Don Lemon, there you go. Thank you, Rain. Yeah, so many people are not going to. But that's where we stand with that. And I guess we'll find out what the sentence is later on next month. All right. Let's talk about the Maxwell trial. Ghislaine Maxwell, jury sent home for day after lawyer falls sick. No author given. A judge has put Ghislaine Maxwell's federal sex trafficking trial on hold for the day after a lawyer in the case fell ill and needed medical attention. Rest in peace to that lawyer. May God have mercy on his soul. I think I did that backwards. I think it's this way. Is it left to right when I'm facing, or is it right to left? Where's John? Somebody get a hold of Iyama so he can tell me, because he grew up Catholic. He's atheist now. He grew up Catholic. He'll know. Judge Allison Nathan said the attorney in question was needed for a direct examination of an upcoming witness, the fourth Maxwell accuser. Miss Maxwell is facing charges over allegedly grooming girls for abuse by Jeffrey Epstein's between 1994 and 2004. She has pleaded not guilty to 8 counts of sex trafficking and perjury. Persecutors have moved through their case quicker than expected and were on course to rest their case this week. Judge Nathan expressed confidence that the court proceedings would resume in New York on Friday morning. She added there was no reason to believe the prosecutor's illness was COVID-related. When the trial resumes, Annie Farmer, the fourth and only named accuser to take the stand, is expected to testify about the abuse she suffered at the hands of Epstein at age 16, and Miss Maxwell's alleged role in involving her with the pedophile. Defense lawyers for Miss Maxwell argue their client is being used as a scapegoat for the crimes of her former boyfriend and business associate. So, interestingly enough, at the very end of this, a lawyer who's involved and directly needed for an examination is sick, with so many high-profile people coming off of this. I guess we'll see what happens off of it, but as crazy as 2021 has been, even crazier than 2020, anything could happen at this point. It really could. All right, I promised we would spend some time on this, because this got to the show, got to the stack, which was extended yesterday, very, very late in the show, I think it was after 9. But I wanted to spend some time on this, and I had to go to work afterwards. But I've got this one here from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Conservative group finds no signs of widespread voter fraud in Wisconsin, but urges changes to election process. This is from Patrick Marley. This is very interesting, and I'm going to tell you why as we get into this here. From Madison, a conservative group issued a report Tuesday saying it found no evidence of widespread fraud in Wisconsin's presidential election, but believed officials did not closely follow all the state's voting laws. Just before we get into this, I want you to think about this first paragraph by itself on its face. A conservative group issued a report Tuesday saying it found no evidence of widespread fraud, but believed that officials did not closely follow all of the state's voting laws. You see, it's that weasel word, widespread. And that's what they've been trying to do with this right from the beginning. Oh, there might have been a couple. There might have been an instance here that there was no widespread fraud. Okay, well, let's go back and figure out what's going on with the system so we don't have narrow spread fraud either. The report by the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty provides Republicans with material they can use to argue Wisconsin's election system needs to be overhauled, but it includes findings Democrats can seize on to emphasize that there's no credible evidence to question Biden's victory over Trump in Wisconsin. A report from the Institute concluded there were no indications of widespread fraud, and there was nothing suspicious about voter turnout or the timing of the vote tally. In addition, voting machines operated properly, the report found. Despite those findings, the Institute leveled numerous criticisms at how the election was conducted and contended changes needed to be made for future contests. The report comes as Republicans who control the Assembly conducted their own review of the election at a cost of $676,000 to the taxpayers. Boy, it's funny how whenever the Assembly wants to do something and it's Republican-controlled, we have to hear about the cost of everything. But when it comes to universal pre-K, when it comes to universal health care, When it comes to the infrastructure package, hey, why are you asking about the cost of this? It's bigoted. Just let the government spend the money. Court Justice, former state Supreme Court Justice, that's the words I was looking for, Michael Gableman, who's overseeing the review, has focused on many of the same issues that WILL targeted in its report. Riley Vetterkind, a spokesman for the Wisconsin Elections Commission, noted that the state's results were verified by multiple authorities before they were finalized and were upheld by courts. Certification of the November 2020 presidential election was based upon lawfully cast votes that were affirmed by the municipal, county, and state canvass certifications and multiple court decisions. After reviewing these matters, Vetterkind said by email, "Here's a rundown of Will's findings and recommendations. No signs of fraud. The report found there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud, as the term is typically defined. However, WILL concluded fraud may be more difficult to identify because clerks around the state did not follow the same procedures. WILL's teams examined 20,000 ballots and found no signs the ballots were fraudulent or miscounted. In Milwaukee and elsewhere, there was not a mismatch between the number of people listed as voting and the ballots that were counted. Put simply, there was no unexplained ballot dump, the authors wrote." On voting machines, there's no evidence of significant problems with voting machines, the authors wrote. There was nothing unusual about the results in communities that use Dominion voting machines. The report found Trump and some Republicans have fixated on the company's machines, prompting the firm to sue conservative news outlets and Trump's backers for defamation. Drop boxes and voter rolls. The report contended election officials did not properly maintain voting rolls and violated the law by setting up ballot drop boxes. Claims elections officials have disputed. WILL this year lost a case before the Supreme Court challenging the way the state maintained the voter rolls. WILL this summer brought a legal challenge to drop boxes, and Waukesha County judge will hold a hearing in that case next week. Filling in addresses. The report criticized the Elections Commission for telling clerks they could fill in incomplete addresses for witnesses on absentee ballot paperwork when voters forgot to include their municipalities or zip codes. The policy was adopted in 2016 at the behest of Republicans. The report argued election officials last year should have followed state law that requires poll workers to visit nursing homes and assist them with voting. The Elections Commission told officials that to instead mail absentee ballots to residents because nursing homes were not accepting visitors during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lawmakers and critics largely ignored the issue while it was still happening, but have recently attacked it as improper. The Racine County Sheriff argued 5 election commissioners should be charged with crimes, an idea that WILL President Rick Essenberg opposes. Highlighting another issue that has frustrated Republicans, the report noted that the state's 5 largest cities received an $8.8 million grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life to help them run their elections. A far smaller amount, about $1.5 million, went to about 200 other communities, including some that lean Republican. The courts have ruled that the grants were allowed. The report recommended hiring separate attorneys for Democrat and Republican members of the state elections commissions, allowing lawmakers to sign off on a guidance the commission sent to election clerks, requiring the commission to issue decisions within 60 days after it receives election complaints, establishing minimum security requirements for ballot drop boxes such as video surveillance, banning or limiting private grants to help local governments run their elections, setting clear standards when clerks can fix errors on ballot paperwork, and requiring all communities to set the same hours for early voting. The authors have also recommended allowing clerks to begin processing absentee ballots on the day before Election Day, which would make final results available much earlier on the night of the election. The report also recommends making the state's voter database available for free. The state charges $12,500 for the database. So, there was no sign of fraud, but it may be difficult to identify that there was fraud. Think about that sentence for just a second. WILL's team examined 20,000 ballots and found no signs that the ballots were fraudulent or miscounted. Except they're supposed to be private, so you can run the same ballots through the machine over and over again and come up with the same result. Unless you know who is voting from where and when, and who's eligible to vote. You can stick those same ballots through the same machine over and over again and find that out. Put simply, there was no unexplained ballot dump, the authors wrote, except for Democracy in the Park. Drop boxes and voter rolls, and that's the big one too, because the voter roll problem has been a problem in this state forever. I physically went to the community I used to live in and talked to the clerk, and I said, I want to make sure, because that community does share half of its side with Dane County, I want to make sure that my ballot, or that I'm not on your voter rolls over here, and it turns out that I wasn't. But there's been an ongoing fight in this state. Purging the voter rolls. Purge the voter rolls. You can't purge the voter rolls. Which I've always said, if you're going to have same-day registration, on-site registration, then you should be purging the voter rolls after every midterm. Now, if you don't have on-site registration, then that presents a different challenge to your community. And I believe in on-site registration. I believe in the fact that you should be able to, if you've got all the proper documentation, go over to, in my community, it's the police station. You should be able to go over to the police station, walk in there with your ID that shows that you live at the address you live in, so they can get you the proper ballot for your particular alderperson. Show the address that you're there, be able to register right there. But the trade-off for that is you purge those voter rolls immediately, as soon as the election is over. It's done. They're gone. And then you go back and you register, either early or at the time of the site. But purge those fucking voter rolls. Every time. And that's a yearly fight in this state. But also, the other side of that is the ballot drop boxes and drop box events. According to this, it's not properly maintained and could be illegal. They're holding hearing off of this right now because in Dane County, and I think they did in Waukesha County too, they set up a series of drop boxes in a park and just said, hey, bring your mail-in ballot down here and drop it off right here. Bring every mail-in ballot you can find, drop it off in the park in Dane County. Super progressive Dane County. Filling in the addresses. The report criticized the Election Commission for telling clerks they could fill in incomplete addresses for witnesses on absentee ballot paperwork when voters forgot to include their municipalities or zip codes. So that would be elections clerks being able to look at the ballot. Seeing who voted for whom, and oh, this is a Trump vote? This is a Jorgensen vote? Never mind, I didn't see that. See, adding that extra chain in there too, that makes things difficult. It makes things wonderful. Now, the final result of this is going to be no widespread voter fraud. In spite of the fact that we keep finding issue after issue after issue after issue. And at some point, once these things start to come up, especially the voting in nursing homes thing, at some point, you have to look at this and say, what the fuck happened? But that's what we see coming off of that. I told you I wanted to spend a little bit of time with that. All right, let's talk about our European front. This is going to get continually more interesting as we go along with this. From the Associated Press to start, Biden assures Ukraine's leader of U.S. support to deter Russia. From Ellen Nickmeyer, Matthew Lee, and Noman Merchant. President Biden reached out to the Ukraine's leader Thursday as the U.S. moved to take a more direct role in diplomacy between that country and Russia, part of a broader effort to dissuade Russia from a destabilizing invasion of its western neighbor. But any negotiations to peacefully resolve Europe's tangled east-west rivalries will present minefields for the U.S. president. Biden made his offer of American diplomacy during a 2-hour online session with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. Biden proposed joining Europeans in negotiations not just to settle the conflict in Eastern Europe, but to address Putin's larger strategic objections to NATO expanding its membership and building military capacity ever closer to Russia's borders. Biden spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky by phone for more than an hour Thursday. Biden assured Zelensky of support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He also renewed a pledge that the U.S. and its allies would hit Russia with economic sanctions and intensify defensive aid to Ukraine and NATO allies nearest to Russia if Russia did invade, the White House said. The two called on Putin to calm the crisis and urge diplomacy. Biden said the U.S. was prepared to help with confidence-building measures to implement a 2015 peace deal in a statement. After the call with the White House, Ukraine said Zelensky was offering clear proposals to unblock the peace process and is ready to discuss them in various formats. Yeah, we'll be talking about that in just a second, because we've got a tale of two outlets fighting over what actually happened with that. Admin officials have suggested the U.S. will press Ukraine to formally cede. See, this is the thing, because according to Newsweek, this is absolutely false, and with this article, we'll go into this a little bit more in depth, but we'll touch on it right now. Admin officials have suggested the U.S. will press Ukraine to formally cede a measure of autonomy within its eastern Donbas region, which is now under the de facto control by Russia-backed separatists who rose up against Kiev in 2014. Is that Biden saying surrender? Correct me if I'm wrong. And it could also be a compromise, but that sounds a lot like Biden is saying, just surrender, man. Decentralization of Ukraine and a special status for Donbas were laid out in an ambiguous European brokered peace deal in 2015, but it has never taken hold. More autonomy could formally give residents of that region more authority over some local issues. The admin officials made no mention of ceding any territory. Biden will also have to finesse Ukraine's desire to join NATO. The US and NATO reject Putin's demands that they guarantee Ukraine won't be admitted to the Western military alliance. But senior State Department officials have told Ukraine that NATO membership is unlikely to be approved in the next decade, according to a person familiar with those private talks who spoke on condition of anonymity. For Biden, the challenge will be encouraging Kiev to accept some of the facts that are on the ground in eastern Ukraine, without appearing to cave to Putin, a perception that could embolden the Russian leader to unleash a fresh line of condemnations by Republicans as Biden's popularity is already in decline. Ukraine may be asked, Can you make a step forward in some of these areas, said Stephen Pfeiffer, a former U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine. That could include measures such as allowing the Russia-allied Donbas region to control its own health care, police, and schools, he said. But I don't see Washington pushing Ukrainians to take steps that could compromise their sovereignty or the ability of the national government when it came to making final decisions, Pfeiffer said. So, a lot of stuff moving with this, a lot of stuff changing, a lot of stuff going on with this, and the fact that nobody really knows whether or not the cessation, the ceding of territory was discussed or not. And there seems to be within the same article, an equal allegation that yes, they made the suggestion and no, they did not. Both going on here at the same time. Let's read from Reuters. Biden assures Zelensky that NATO membership in Ukraine's hands, Kiev says, from Matthew Williams and Natalia Zinets. U.S. President Joe Biden assured Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that Kiev's bid to join the NATO military alliance was in its own hands, Zelensky's chief of staff said after the two leaders spoke on Thursday. Biden and Zelensky had a call 2 days after Biden held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin to try to defuse a crisis over Russian troop movements near the Ukraine borders. Ukraine accuses Russia of massing tens of thousands of troops in preparation for a possible large-scale military offensive, raising fears that a simmering conflict in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region could erupt into open war between the neighbors. Russia denies planning any attack but accuses the Ukraine and U.S. of destabilizing behavior and has sought security guarantees against NATO's eastward expansion. Ukraine rejects any such guarantees as illegitimate and has sought reassurances that no deals about this future would be declared without its involvement. President Biden said very clearly that any negotiations, any decisions that concern Ukraine cannot be taken without Ukraine, Zelensky Chief of Staff Andrei Yermak told the 1+1 TV channel. President Biden said very clearly that the decision on Ukraine's ascension to NATO is the decision of the Ukrainian people only. This is a sovereign and independent Ukrainian state, he said, and it depends on Ukraine and NATO members. In a call which Zelensky said lasted 1.5 hours, Ukraine's president also told Biden that he had clear proposals to unblock the peace process in eastern Ukraine and was ready to discuss them in various formats. The White House earlier said that Biden planned to convey support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity during the call. So, as far as the admission to NATO, I really honestly think that could be seen as a slap against Putin. Now, strategically, it's probably not the worst idea in the world, and this is looking straight at NATO. Now, I'm not a huge fan of NATO in its current form. I think if we are going to stay into the treaty alliance, it does need to be revamped in a very, very big manner. I actually got into an argument with somebody over this on Twitter yesterday. Well, not really, because I was working so much, but you know, I took a lot of heat for my comments on NATO yesterday. Which, again, I don't think that it's the worst thing in the world. I just think it needs to be massively restructured. Because part of the reason that a lot of these European states right now can afford to do their Medicare for all, their socialized medicine, which I still don't completely agree with at this point. But a lot of the reason that they feel they can do this right now is because a lot of their military support comes from the U.S. picking up the slack for their NATO membership. They don't have to pay for a large swath of their military. And unfortunately, if it did get restructured in the U.S.'s favor, then we would start seeing some of them have to cut ties on some of their socialized medicine. I think having the alliance there is very good, especially with a lot of these countries that have a common interest into this, but it needs a restructure. It definitely needs a restructure. But we'll see where that goes and what happens with that. From the New York Post, this is an op-ed, but I wanted to touch on this for a second just because this kind of goes with the cessation of territory that I was talking about a bit ago, and we're going to talk a bit more about after this. The op-ed from the New York Post, Biden's feeble Ukraine defense, U.S. troops off table boost Putin's hand, from Dalibor Rohak. There's a strange dissonance between America's unwavering support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, its sovereignty, its independence, recently expressed by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and President Biden's admission that the use of force against prospective Russian invasion of Ukraine is not in the cards right now. From a tactical standpoint, it's rarely a good idea to announce upfront how far one is willing to go in escalating a conflict. Yeah, that's true. That's doubly true in an age of hybrid warfare and gray zone aggression, which Russia itself has pioneered. After all, if the West decided to play as dirty a game as Vladimir Putin, it has a number of options worth keeping on the table. If only to make Russian strongman feel uneasy about its bravest move, short of an official NATO deployment to Ukraine, for example. It is perfectly conceivable that NATO soldiers in unmarked uniforms and with military equipment would choose Ukraine as the holiday destination, not unlike how Russia characterized its own military activities in Crimea and eastern Ukraine. Nobody wishes for a shooting war between NATO and Russia, particularly over a country that's not a NATO member. As the president emphasizes, even without any Western involvement in the U.S. administration, is surely thinking the notion of Russia tanks rolling into Kiev is far-fetched. I don't know. I don't think that's as far-fetched as you think it is. Ukraine's military is in better shape relative to 2014, thanks in part to U.S. military aid and purchases of modern equipment, including the latest Turkish drones. Russian aggression has also helped coalesce a sense of Ukrainian nationhood and hard Ukrainian attitudes towards Russia, which has been traditionally quite warm. Yet none of that helps ease the blatant contradiction between rhetorical flourishes about the West's and America's firm commitment to Ukraine's future as a free, sovereign nation and our collective unwillingness to lift a finger in its defense. Uncouth and backwards as it may sound, unless we're actually willing to put up a fight over its sovereignty, we're not really committed to the Ukraine at all, even if a Russian-led invasion and occupation of Ukraine are not imminent. Putin understands that the US and its European partners are not going to stop him from pushing the envelope further at the time and the matter of his choosing. Now, this author brings up a lot of good points, but he's also incorrect in a few points as well, and it's very, very clear that this author is in favor of a military action to defend the Ukraine. Just kind of reading between the lines of what he says. Now, the author never says that, but it's very clear that that's kind of the idea that the author wants to go with off of this. Now, looking at this, and I'm going to look at this from a specific strategic standpoint, not necessarily what I want to see happen, because, I mean, you know me, I'm as isolationist as they get. No more troops anywhere whatsoever. That's the way that I look at this whole thing. But to look at this strategically, the way that the U.S. is looking at it, looking at this diplomatically, the way the U.S. is looking at it, if this was me and I was in this situation, with the cards that were dealt to me, because that's the other thing to keep in mind, is you can either completely gut and change foreign policy to meet your whims, or you can work within the parameters that were left for you. But regardless, looking at this, if this was me and I was in the same situation, I wouldn't have told Putin that there's not going to be a ground war, that there are not going to be troops. And furthermore, I would have every current non-combative Marine in the world redeployed into every base in Europe that we have. They don't necessarily have to be in the Ukraine. They don't necessarily have to be down in Turkey. They don't have to be like up on the Russian border. But I would have every single Marine that is not in a combative role currently redeployed to a base somewhere. France, Germany, the Netherlands, any base that we have over there. No. We're not planning we're not planning to go defend the Ukraine, but we just want to give a nice vacation to all our guys. No, you're being paranoid, Vladimir. Don't worry about this. But still, have that show of force. Show how many Marines we actually have and how many we can be there set to deploy if they need it. If that was the situation that I was in. Now, of course, this would also come with talks of trying to talk them down and saying, hey, no, you don't want to do this. That's what I would do if it was me. I would still come up and say, hey, you don't want to do this. Hey, let's let these people be sovereign. Hey, let's not start a ground war over this. But meanwhile, packing every Marine that I could into Europe. And every army grunt, too. And you know what? Just for the fun of it, I'd have every carrier sitting around Europe as well, with as close access to the Black Sea as I could get it. That's how I would do it. And there would be no talk of ceding territory either. But that's the way they see off of this. Now, from ABC7 on your side, Biden plans to pressure Ukraine to cede territory to Russia-backed groups, report says, from Zachary Rogers. Excuse me. So this is also a good map to kind of show where we're looking at with this too. What they're talking about ceding. But let's read into this just a bit. President Biden's administration is reportedly going to urge Ukraine's government to cede territory to Russia-backed groups in an attempt to appease Russian President Vladimir Putin. Okay, I want to step back here. You know, for the last 4 years, for 4 years prior to this year, if that sentence had appeared in a news outlet, we would have been hearing Orange Putin puppet left and fucking right. The Associated Press reports American officials plan on pushing Ukraine to grant autonomy to eastern regions of the country, which are currently under the control of Russia-backed separatists who revolted in 2014. Oh yes, they're revolting. And this is the swath of land they're talking about. Now, it's not a huge swath of land. compared to the rest of Ukraine proper, but still, it's territorially, it's Ukrainian territory. It's not like half the country like it was in our Civil War, but I mean that's what we see of this. So when we look, when we see what's going on with this, that's what they're talking about going on, is ceding this part of here. The majority of the population of this area is Russian sympathizers. They're separatists. They don't want to be part of the Ukraine. But as close as they... This is the thing that I don't understand. And I do understand your family plot and everything, but if you're that dissatisfied with the Ukrainian government and you're right there... Now, if they're here, if this was the area that was controlled by Russia-backed separatists, I would say, okay, we got to think of something here. But I mean, you're right here. Russia is right here. If you don't want to be under this government, move. It's right there. The country you so longingly want to live for is right there. Stephen Pfeiffer, a former U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, spoke with the Associated Press, saying Ukraine may be asked to allow some Russia-allied regions to control over their own police, schools, and healthcare. But I don't see Washington pushing Ukrainians to take steps that would compromise their sovereignty or the ability of the national government when it came to making decisions, Pfeiffer said to the Associated Press. In a 2-hour call with Putin, Biden warned if Russia invades Ukraine, the U.S. will take action. There was a lot of give and take. There was no finger wagging, says White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who says if Russian troops move in, America would support its allies. We would provide additional defense material to the Ukrainians above and beyond that which we're already providing, and we would fortify our NATO allies on the eastern flank with additional capabilities in response to such an escalation. So, that's apparently the plan. I don't know if that's true or not, because the immediate next article tells us, from Newsweek, absolutely false. Biden pressured Ukraine to cede land to avoid war. Psaki. White House press secretary, red-haired bobblehead, categorically denied Tuesday. She categorically ignores a lot of things, but that's not what happened here. Categorically denied on Thursday that President Biden is pressuring Ukraine to cede land to Russia in an effort to reduce tension in the area. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia are mounting, and officials are concerned Russia could invade the eastern part of the Ukraine. If it's under the control of separatists, they're not going to invade. They're going to go back and open the fucking door for them. Psaki made clear on Thursday that the U.S. expects Russia to respect Ukraine's border, and Biden is hoping to resolve the tension with diplomacy. That diplomacy doesn't include pressuring the Ukraine to cede territory to Russian-backed groups, according to Psaki. When asked about reports the U.S. is pressuring Ukraine to give up land in Russia as a means of deterring an invasion, Psaki said it's not true, calling it absolutely false. And then she circled back. On Thursday, the Associated Press reported administration officials suggested the U.S. will press Ukraine to formally cede some autonomy of its eastern territory that'll be controlled by Russian-backed separatists. What is going on with pretzel rocks, dude? Psaki said the White House plans to continue its pressure on Russia to ease up on the Ukraine, making it clear there would be significant financial repercussions if they step out of line. The Russian Foreign Ministry has accused the Ukraine of advancing artillery towards the front line and failing to engage in peace talks. Vladimir Putin said the events in Donbass, a conflict zone in eastern Ukraine, resemble genocide, according to TASS, a Russian state news agency. Negotiations on a peaceful settlement have practically hit a dead end. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova told reporters, according to Reuters. Like, is there a lot of people there? Let's pull up the map. Let's actually have a look. And I'm going to pull the terrain map too up just so we can see. I mean, if this is a lot of urban, if what's going on with this. So this is Ukraine, right here. This is the region that's in question. So let's zoom in on that. That's Donetsk and Luhansk. So let's have a look at what this land actually looks like. It's like a lot of farmland for the most part. I mean, there are some urban regions here. You know, Central Market, another grocery store, some farmland kind of interspersed between urbanist. So I can see where there might actually be quite a few people in here. It looks like, I mean, that's a fairly big residential area right there. I wonder who will build the roads. And then back down here. But it does look like, with the exception of interspersed residential areas, it does look like there is, I mean, a lot of this is mostly farmland, it looks like, over in this region. It's like fairly good farmland too. So genocide, I'm not sure about, and strategically, I'm not sure either, unless it's just slice it up one at a time. Why Russia is so hell-bent and hard on to get this. But that's what we see coming off of that. Some more diplomacy stuff coming from the Associated Press once again. Germany warns Russia will pay a price if it enters the Ukraine, from Frank Jordans and Thomas Adamson. Germany's foreign minister warned Russia on Thursday it would pay a high political and economic price if it makes any militaristic moves against neighboring Ukraine. Foreign Minister Elaine emphasized the need to coordinate a common European position when dealing with hostile neighbors such as Russia, which has amassed troops near the border with the Ukraine. The territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Ukraine are up for negotiation for us, Baerbock said in Paris while making her first foreign trip a day after taking office. She added the highest priority must be to avoid a military escalation. Russia would pay a high political and economic price for the renewed breach of Ukraine's statehood, Baerbock told reporters during a joint news conference with French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs Jean-Yves Le Drian. We can only find solutions down the diplomatic route, and we are both ready to become personally deeply engaged on this matter. Russia insists it has no plans to invade the Ukraine unless it's provoked. In a phone conversation Thursday with Angela Merkel, Russian President Vladimir Putin thanked the now retired German Chancellor for years of fruitful cooperation, according to the Kremlin's readout of the call. Putin underscored Merkel's significant contribution to the development of the Russian-German relations during her 16 years in office. She said that she always is welcome in Russia. Merkel, in turn, wished Putin success in establishing a dialogue with new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the readout said. In France, Baerbock said it was a big diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics in China was another big topic on Thursday. The White House and British and Australian governments have said none of their diplomats will attend the Beijing Games, decisions intended to protest Chinese human rights abuses. So, they're getting boycotted diplomatically in China. That's going to be the other thing we talk about if we get down to where we get down to the point where we talk about Evergrande and their default. But Europe is shaking the fist at this, which, I mean, is understandable, especially with Nord Stream going to, but the Ukraine is a major pipeline, figuratively speaking, of course, for Germany to get its oil and the rest of its fuel, and the rest of Europe to do the same. There is a lot diplomatically riding on this, which is a big part of the reason I do think that Russia is looking at this, because if they control the trade routes, they control Europe. And the U.S. either has to go after its progressives, change out its progressive wing, and piss all those people off, and start up the oil pump so they can go back and supply Europe, or Europe is at Russia's mercy. There's a lot of stuff moving here, and this is warlike stuff. You know, we come out of the Middle East and we come back into this, and I mean, this is not official financial advice, but I'm going to go look at some Northrop Grumman stock after this. I definitely am. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, I got one. Here's the guy that's leading these negotiations. Are you ready for this? Here's who's leading these negotiations right here.
Where am I?
Right here, sir.
I'm right here.
Okay, here we go. Boss, let's go over here. Okay, once you turn around to your right.
Hey, folks, how are you?
Go. And here we
Good to
are.
see you, man.
And here we are.
Where am I?
Right here, sir.
I'm right
Where am
here.
I?
Okay, here we go. Boss, let's go over here. Okay, once you turn around to your right.
Hey, folks, how are you?
Go. And here we
Good to
are.
see you, man.
And here we are.
I don't know why he's in a car shop, why there's a blind dude in a car shop either, by the way. And I recognize some of the lifts and, of course, the Mac toolbox, but I mean, look at the way this dude walks. They made such a big deal out of the way that Trump walked in if he stumbled up a ramp or something, or held his glass wrong or something else like this. But I mean, look at this guy.
Where am I?
Where am I?
I'm right here.
Okay, here we go. Boss, let's go over here.
He has no idea what's going on. Look at him. Look at the dazed look in his face.
Okay, once you turn around to your right.
Hey, folks, how are you?
Go. And here we
Good to
are.
see you, man.
And here we are.
If I was Zelensky, I'd be very, very nervous right now. Because that's the guy who's leading all my negotiations right there. And yes, like the Associated Press, the Newsweeks, the CNNs and whatnot, they can paint up the picture, the image of him on the screen and make him look like he's with it, he's lucid, he knows what's going on. But then we see videos like this.
Where am I?
Right here, sir.
I'm right here.
Okay, here we go. Boss, let's go over here. Okay, once you turn around to your
Also, Biden's clenched fist tweets out, he did it again just a couple weeks ago. The fact checkers went into overdrive when Biden said end of quote to cover for him. And that's the Associated Press's fact checker here. But the first tweets out, Biden reads the instructions off the teleprompter, end of message. Let's listen.
And I quote Bob Dole. I cannot pretend that I have not been a loyal champion of my party, but I've always served my country best when I did it so first and foremost as an American, where we prioritize principles over party, humanity over personal legacy. When we do that, we accomplish far more as a nation. By leading with shared faith in each other, we become America at its best. He went on to say, a beacon of hope, a source of comfort in crisis, a shield against those who threaten freedom. Our nation has certainly faced periods of division, but at the end of the day, we've always found ways to come together. We can find that unity again. Then the message said, end of message. And I quote, we can find that unity again. Then the message said, end of message.
And the message said, end of message. That's the guy who's making the negotiations. That's going to be my new Twitter handle too, by the way. J. Edgar, the end of message. Also, thank you to FemWin for following over on Twitch. I just saw that over there when I checked the monitors while we were doing this. Thank you for that. So, yeah, if that doesn't make you nervous as a Ukrainian, if any Ukrainians are ever watching this, I don't know what will. You know, this is funny. I've been trying to get to this one here for the entire week, too. I found this article on Tuesday, and I've been trying to get to it, and we just keep running out of time. But speaking of, and by the way, I'm changing the music track, too, because the cold cutoffs on the pretzel rocks are bothering me. So we'll go back to Christmas Lo-Fi. Over on the YouTube. Taking Viagra cuts the risk of Alzheimer's by up to 69%. Mr. Biden, I think it's time for that little blue pill, from Nick McDermott. Taking Viagra slashes Alzheimer's risk by 2/3, research suggests. Scientists claim the love drug may help boost brain health and cut levels of toxic proteins that trigger dementia. Experts analyzed data on 7.2 million U.S. adults and found regular users had a 69% lower chance of being diagnosed with Alzheimer's over the next 6 years. Medics say the findings, published in the journal Natural Aging, suggest the little blue pill could be prescribed to tackle dementia. They're planning a fresh study to test the benefits of sildenafil, the generic version of Viagra, in early Alzheimer's patients. A team from Cleveland Clinic looked at whether any of the 1,600 approved drugs could be repurposed to tackle the underlying causes of the disease. I actually don't think that that's really far off. I mean, it improves blood flow. So, I mean, the more blood you're getting to the brain, the more cognizant you're going to be. And that's, apparently what causes Alzheimer's is the protein buildup. As far as, I mean, the hard part is you don't really want to go, and a lot of these people do glycerides for heart health as well. So you can't really mix the two because, that'll kill you. But I could see, some sort of, some idea to this. I could see some merit to this. And I guess we might have to give some to the leader of the free world, and hey, maybe Jill will get some, maybe Jill will become less insufferable at this point, if she does that as well. And it is a Pfizer holding too, isn't it? Katie said. That is a Pfizer holding, you are correct. All right, more Biden people behaving badly. The Biden admin's Brian Deese, NEC, on skyrocketing grocery prices. If you take out beef, pork, and poultry, the price increases are more in line with historical norms. Let's listen.
The context here is the focus, the appropriate focus on the question of grocery prices and the increase in grocery prices that we have seen recently over the last couple of months. And if we unpack that, one of the interesting findings of the report that we put out today is that about half of the overall increase in grocery prices can be attributed to a significant increase in prices in three products, in beef, in pork, and in poultry. And in beef and in pork, we've seen double-digit increases in prices over the last couple of months. In fact, if you look at the category that is grocery prices, what economists call food at home, so food that is being purchased to eat at home, in a number of areas we've seen, if you take out those three categories, we've actually seen price increases that are more in line with historical norms. And we've seen some categories, for example, fresh fruits and vegetables prices have actually declined since the end of last year. And if you look at a category of prices like eggs, obviously a similar supply chain, similar input and feed costs to poultry, the price of eggs has actually come down over the last couple of months. The real drivers in these three areas, these three proteins. If you look at that market, the thing that is striking is across beef, poultry, and pork, significant consolidation in those industries. So anywhere from 55 to 85% of the market is controlled by the top.
Yeah, you and your fucking Department of Agriculture are responsible for the consolidation, you cocksucker. Probably not necessarily you directly, because you don't look like you're that much older than me. Which means that you wouldn't have been into this for very long, but the Department of Agriculture is a big driver for why you're seeing that consolidation, and why we're seeing ranchers in Oklahoma and Texas rising up to try to form their own cooperatives and stand up to your IVPs and your companies like that. But regardless, Listen to what this guy's saying. If you take out beef, pork, and poultry, the price increases are more in line with historical norms. Live in the pod, eat the bugs. That's what we have for that. From the Blaze, let's throw some music back up here. Hong Kong Phooey, hell yes. Only 41% support Biden's new spending bill, and most say America is heading in the wrong direction in a new Marist poll from Carlos Garcia. A new poll shows that messaging from President Biden and the Democrats is not resounding with Americans, a majority of who say the country is heading in the wrong direction. The latest NPR Marist poll, published on Thursday, shows some very alarming signs for Democrats. Among those are that 61% of Americans say the country is moving in the wrong direction. While Democrats are trying out the legislative achievements that set money into the pocketbooks of millions of Americans, most say the payments only help them a little or not at all. They don't have the unified message for what they're doing, and that does not bode well for the party, says Marist poll director Barbara Carvalho. More than 6 in 10 Americans reported receiving the one-time payment of $1,400 this year, but of those, only a quarter said it helped a lot. Many more said it only helped a little. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it didn't help me improve the production quality of the show, because that's what mine went into, is this nice little box here down at my knees. The same poll that found that 59% of eligible households received the child tax credit, far fewer than what the government says it received it. Of those, 2/3 reported that it helped a little, but another 20% said that it didn't help at all. Carvalho saw another problem for Democrats in the poll results. A previous poll found that a primary concern for many Americans was inflation, but the latest poll found that many Americans didn't think the Democrat spending bill would improve inflation. No shit, Sherlock. The Democrats are not connecting the dots between concerns about inflations and what's happening in Washington, either with the infrastructure bill or the Build Back bullshit, said Carvalho. She said that should be an absolute red flag for the Democrat Party. So, yeah, people are starting to wake up and wise up to the bullshit. And it's kind of interesting to see, too, because on the majority of people who are being polled, it's either going to be Gen X, the boomers out there, of course, because they're still using the landlines off of this. But just to think that, statistically, there's got to be at least some portion of millennials on this poll as well. And I'm starting to feel like my generation is starting to wake up to the bullshit. After being promised that, somebody's going to take care of you for your entire life, just like they got in their childhoods. After the last economic crash, and they still got to go live with mommy and daddy until they were 27. I mean, that was great. It was great for guys like me, that was in spite of the fact that I had crappy cars, crappy trucks, and whatnot while I was living in Kenosha. I made it a full-on point that I was not going to live with my parents. I lived with my aunt for a few months when I first came back from Mass, and that was about it. After that, I was going to live on my own because I could not live under somebody else's roof. And I did that, and it was great for me in the dating market because all of my competition still lived with their mom and dads up until they were 30. A lot of them did. That was the most important part for me. But now they're starting to look back at this and saying, this is happening again. The government is fucking this up again. And some of their moms and dads lost their houses too in all of this. I really hope that this is a sign and this causes the Democrat Party to look in on itself and say, hey, we got to do something different here. Because this progressive stuff, this take care of you from cradle to grave, that's not going to work. And people aren't wise to this. All we're going to do is wreck another economy. Actually come out here and autopsy their party. As much as I would hate to see And this would, with the neocons and the Christian cons out there that are poised and drooling to come in and sit in with the party, this does scare me a little bit to say, but I would almost rather see a dominating control of Republicans. Oh God, that fucking scared the shit out of me to say that. For a couple of years, while the Democrats come back and autopsy their party and say, hey, this authoritarian, this progressive thing, this doesn't work. This doesn't sell shit. But we'll see what happens with that. All right, from Fox Business. Dems again urge Biden to cancel student loan debt as payment restart looms. From Megan Henney. A group of Dems is ramping up the pressure on President Biden to use his executive authority to cancel billions of dollars in student loan debt and extend a moratorium on payments that is poised to expire in February. In a Wednesday letter addressed to the White House, Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and Ayanna Pressley warned that millions of families could be hurt financially and the economy's recovery from the pandemic imperiled if Biden does not extend the federal government's pause on student loan payments, which is slated to end on February 1st of 2022. The lawmakers cited an analysis conducted by the Roosevelt Institute, a progressive think tank, showing that resuming student loan payments in less than 2 months will strip 18 million borrowers of $7.12 billion a month, $85.48 billion annually over the next year. So what are you going to do? Just have that sit out there forever? The study examined 60% of the 43 million total borrowers in the U.S. affected by the payment pause, excluding 7.7 million individuals who are behind on payments. Based on that data, there are roughly 18 million borrowers who, before the freeze on the payments began, paid an average of $393 a month towards their loans. To prevent the student debt crisis from dragging down our economic recovery, undermining the effectiveness of the American Rescue Plan, and causing unnecessary pain and stress for the American families, we strongly urge you to extend the pause on student loan payments and interest and act to cancel student debt, they wrote in the letter. Lawmakers have cited additional uncertainty caused by the new Omicron variant of the pinko fucking pox, which has been found in at least 57 countries, including the U.S. There's still a lack of clarity over how dangerous the strain is, including whether it is more transmissible or capable of causing more severe illnesses. Early evidence suggests an increased risk of reinfection. If we don't extend the pause, interest rates just pile up. Students owe a fortune, Chuck U. Schumer said. And with Omicron here, we're not getting out of this as quickly as we'd like. The Education Department has provided about $72 billion in relief on student loan interest alone. Lawmakers previously said and by the way, you're on the hook for that too as a taxpayer. About 41 million Americans are benefiting from the federal government's pause of student loan payments, which began in March of 2020 and was twice extended. Schumer, Warren, and Pressley also called on Biden to cancel $50,000 in outstanding federal debt per borrower via executive order. I don't think he can do that. And by the way, that will also come out of your taxpayer dollars if they do. The Democrats have maintained that Biden could use existing executive authority under the Higher Education Act to order the Department of Education to modify, compromise, waive, or release student loans. I want to point something out here too. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that this did directly affect the conversation we're having right now, I would not talk about this. And I'm also not going to mention her by name. But something similar to this did happen to my ex-girlfriend while we were living together. And it's the only reason that I'm bringing this up right now. She worked out a deal on something with a bank. I'm not completely sure of the details with it of what happened with that. And of course, even if I'm not going to air exactly what the details were. To have a portion of a loan that she had at one point forgiven outright. It had worked out with the bank, and I believe that she worked it out with a lawyer as well to have a portion of a loan that she had out forgiven, which is all well and good. I mean, if they can do that without a negative effect to your credit score, good on you. if you can go back and do that and have that happen. But when it happened, it counted towards her as income. See, these Elizabeth Warrens, these Chuck U. Schumers, and these Ayanna Presleys think that it's cool that they can come back out and, throw $50,000 of forgiveness right off the top of there. The IRS is going to look at that as income, and they are going to charge you. You're going to have an extra $50,000 on income that month. What do you think that's going to do to your tax bracket? What do you think that's going to do to you come in January? That is considered income, by the way. And, I mean, look at me. I can tell you right now, I would benefit greatly. Now, most of my student loans are in private, so this wouldn't affect me at all. But the ones that I do have on the federal back, the public ones, those would disappear, and it's nowhere close to $50,000 either. On the federal side, I'm actually really, really good. I'm really low on student loans. It's just that damn private one. It would be really easy for me to turn around and roll what I have in federal ones into a refinance on a mortgage. And I'm not going to say the number, but it's really low compared to most people. It's not something I can write a check and pay off right now, but it's compared to most people where they're talking about $50,000 a pop, it's really low. As far as that goes, though, I mean, this would benefit me, but then I'd have the X amount in, I'd have that X amount in income, and I'd get slapped in fucking taxes the next year. These people don't think far ahead. They just think, oh, hey, well, these people have an extra $393 a month. They'll put it in savings, and they'll be able to pay their taxes the next time. And that's not how that goes. Oh, free Crystal Kaiser. Thanks, Katie Z. But that's what they're seeing off of this. They're trying to get this to come out and happen, and they don't think forward off of this. Now, as far as the delay goes, or even as my suggestion went, and then I made a solo video. Back when I had short hair, I made a solo video on this, talking about this, saying, hey, let's just set everybody back to no penalties and reset everybody's interest. That would go a lot further than just forgiving student loan debt. Forgive all their back interest one time. Forgive all the back interest, set everybody back to the initial principal, minus what they've already paid off, set everybody back to there, and everybody's penalties are gone. You would probably see the student loan crisis dry up over this. Well, maybe not anymore, but back when we were in a good economy. And I made this video, I believe I made the video before the Pinko Pox started. If not before, then shortly afterwards. But that would go a lot further in solving the student debt crisis than just forgive everybody's student loan debts and, oh, hey, look, now we've got all this extra money in the coffers. All right, we are running up on the clock here, and we do have to do the live chat here. So if you are just lurking right now, and I've seen 10 names, 10 people watching according to the counter, and I only see a few names in here. So make sure you get those last-minute messages in. And reminder, if they are sufficiently stupid or sufficiently bigoted, hateful, then they'll get read at the bottom of the show because, hey, they'll raise the intellectual level here. And I've also got the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat here ready to say thank you as well. And we'll probably do that in just about 9 minutes. So get those last minute messages in now, and just like Katie just got her last minute message in. From Market Watch, Kellogg's to permanently replace 1,400 striking workers. In just a second. Well, we got it off the YouTube stream, but we didn't get it off the Instagram stream, so... let's see what we have here. From Market Watch, from Weston Blossy. Kellogg's company said it is permanently replacing about 1,400 of its striking factory workers, ending a labor feud between employees and the cereal brand. The prolonged work stoppage left us no choice but to hire permanent replacement employees in positions vacated by striking workers, the company said in a statement on Tuesday night. Excuse me. Workers have been striking for a variety of reasons, including issues surrounding compensation, benefits, and cost of living, according to the union's website. Earlier on Tuesday, striking Kellogg's workers overwhelmingly voted to reject a 5-year offer from Kellogg's that would give employees a 3% raise. The strike began on October 5th and took place for employees at factories at Battle Creek, Omaha, Lancaster, and Memphis. According to the Associated Press, one of the specific obstacles in the negotiations has been the company's wage system that gives newer workers lower pay and fewer benefits. About 30% of the cereal plant workforce receives those lower wages. Kellogg's makes popular cereals like Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, and Rice Krispies. They've been hiring contract workers to keep up with the product demand during the strike. The Kellogg's workers on strike were represented by the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union. The BCTGM Union did not immediately respond to MarketWatch's request for comment on this story. The news comes as the so-called Great Resignation of U.S. workers slowed in October, but over 4 million people still quit their jobs. Kellogg stock was down 2.3% in early afternoon trading on Wednesday, compared with a drop of 0.1% for the S&P 500. So, I do think that there's some corporate union shenanigans and chicanery that goes along with this. I don't care for this. Now, I've always said my thoughts on unions are different from most people who are not progressive liberals, because I believe that people should have the opportunity, especially strength in numbers. Especially if they're working for a major corporation like this, where they can come back out here and say, okay, you can't replace us all at once, and you will be fucked if you try to replace us all at once. So let's work out a deal here together. Otherwise, all 50, all 10, all 5, all 25, throw an arbitrary number out this. We'll all quit. End of story. That's what a union should be. But what the labor union now has become, AFL-CIO style with the, what were the letters on this one? I know the UFCW because I used to work for it, but the BCTGM union, what all this goes with. This is corporatocracy right here. This is just another way to come back out and even launder some money for Democratic causes. And they're voting down this contract, and they're putting 1,400 people out of a job that they vowed to make sure that they would have a job. Because 3% of a raise wasn't enough for them, and benefits this and benefits that. And I always find, and I do have to wonder, after these people get let go from their jobs, is the union leader going to show up at their houses in his brand new Corvette from the union dues that he's got off of this? Is he going to show up? And first and foremost, is he going to represent the new people? Because that's going to show exactly what their loyalties lie, and I guarantee you he's going to, because they can't cut off that sweet union due. But then the union leader goes up to the houses of the people who just lost all their jobs and says, hey, I'm sorry you lost your job. Oh, by the way, all the union dues from all these new employees just bought me another new Corvette. Sorry about the loss of your job, though. And honestly, just if it was the fact, like if it was Kellogg's that refuses to budge off of this, I would say let's not go buy Kellogg's, because these people are looking for a little bit more, and I would also have to know the details of what their compensation packages were. I would say let's not buy Kellogg's. But the fact that these people took the 3%, an actual move in a direction of helping people, and shoved it back in Kellogg's face, no. I'm going to go buy Kellogg's after this. The next time I go to the store, I'm going to buy a box of Fruit Loops. Just because. Yeah, Marie gets it. Like I say, I don't have a problem with people organizing to help each other. It's when you get the corporate involvement that goes along with it. That's where I start to take issue with what goes on with that. But, of course, the people have pushed back a little bit. Which, if you're going to push back, this is the way to do it. They organize. Reddit users are taking up the cause of Kellogg's striking workers. Approximately 1,400 Kellogg's union workers have been on strike since October 5th at factories in Michigan, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee over outstanding issues in their contract negotiations. The workers, represented by the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union, rejected a tentative agreement offer by Kellogg's on December 7th. On the same day, Kellogg said it planned to hire permanent workers to replace the employees on strike. While certainly not the end result we had hoped for, we must take the necessary steps to ensure continuity, Kellogg's North American president Chris Hood said in a statement. At least one subreddit community has an answer to this common union busting tactic: flood Kellogg's job website with fake applications, making it harder to replace union workers. The idea to support Kellogg's workers began circulating today, December 9th, on the subreddit r/anti-work in a post. That right there shows exactly where we come from off of this. It's all about anti-work in a post that now has 56,000 upvotes. User Bloomin' Funyuns shares the link to several jobs posted by Kellogg's at the sites where workers are striking and encourages users to submit fake applications to clog their toilet of an application pipeline. The user recommends fake applicants use sample resumes from Google Images along with zip codes and area codes from the cities where the jobs are listed to avoid being filtered out. User Alarmed Tree 723 shared a post recommending people use Microsoft Edge to autofill applications, making it easier to fill out several at a time. Kellogg's did not immediately reply to a request for comment. The support for Kellogg's union workers is no surprise, coming from r/anti-work, a subreddit that gained over 900,000 new members this year and has been described as the poster child of the Great Resignation on r/anti-work. Users commiserate about poor pay and labor conditions, often posting messages of solidarity for striking workers across the retail, entertainment, and manufacturing sectors. And the funniest part about this is, if these people get their communist paradise like they want, they think that they're going to be able to stay home. This is the funniest part of this to me. Because we've seen what happens under an actual communist and socialist regime throughout the world. What actually happens when you get your communist dream. They think that they're going to be able to go home, maybe do a job for 20 hours a week, and get all their needs taken care of by the government, because that's what socialism is. That's what they've been promised. That's what Marxism is. And in doing so, they can sit there and they can work on their rap career. They can do their painting. They can write their shitty poetry and only work 20 hours a week and have all their needs taken care of. And the worst part of it is, the truck that's coming up alongside of them that they can't see because their back is turned to it, is the fact that as soon as this new takeover comes in, they will be bound probably to the same jobs that they had, or probably going into the salt mines if they were disruptive on their jobs or they sucked at their jobs. They'll be going out to the salt mines, and if they object, they go to the gulags. But they'll be out to the mines, to the factories, to the production facilities without any union representation. And all they will get is whatever the government feels that they need. And that's how all this ends. But here they are going to be, anti-work. Alright, can we do... I want to do just a couple. I want to get up to this NPR one, and then we'll cut it off for the day, and still have a lot of stuff to do on Monday. We might have a record show on Monday, because with the Ukraine stuff going on, they're going to start loading a lot more shit in here. But let's grab these two last ones here, then we'll do live chat for the day. Because they go on to the labor market, which we were just talking about. From the Daily Wire. There are now 3.6 million more jobs than people willing to take them. From Ben Ziesloft. The Department of Labor revealed that the number of job openings is expanding, thereby worsening a labor market that's already placing immense pressure on businesses. The agency's most recent job openings and labor turnover survey, which analyzes data from October, shows there are 11.03 million job openings in the U.S., exceeding the number of people actively searching for work by 3.6 million. CNBC reports. The JOLTS report is closely watched at the Federal Reserve and elsewhere for signs of labor market tightness. The pinko fucking pox pandemic has seen quits surge to what has been record highs. Even with October's decline, the level is still 24%, above where it was a year ago. Economists generally see the exodus as greater opportunity in the pandemic-era jobs market spurred many workers, still reluctant to come off the sidelines either because of childcare issues or health concerns. Through November, the labor force was still at 2.4 million smaller than what it had been in February 2020. The total unemployment level was more than 3.5 million down. Many of this points to historic levels of government stimulus programs, such as a contributing factor to low job market participation. In an August interview with the Daily Wire, Kevin Brady of Texas, a ranking member of the House Ways and Means Committee, which is responsible for deliberating taxes and other fiscal policy measures, noted that the American Rescue Plan's $300 per week enhanced federal unemployment insurance was crushing Main Street business. Companies of all sizes simply can't find the workers they need, he observed. Whether they're retailers, restaurateurs, or production lines, this is inevitable when you pay 4 out of 10 Americans more to stay home than to work. Though the enhanced unemployment checks expired in September, Brady observed a similar distortionary effects from child tax credits, the lawmaker recalled in a recent visit with a group of restaurant owners in Maryland, one of whom noted that a top employee was unable to entirely quit her job because of the payouts. For the first time, it's divorced from work. It's not a requirement for getting it. So you're seeing this barrier begin to impact businesses starting last week, Brady said. I think the point here is that the federal government is sending a seemingly never-ending supply of checks, regardless of whether you work or not. You're going to have economic problems, and that's what we're seeing. Amid the tighter labor market and inflationary pressures, many major companies are hiking wages. Roughly 39% of respondents in a Conference Board poll said the rising price levels are a motivating factor for the wage hikes. However, higher pay does not necessarily correspond to higher living standards. Since President Biden took office, Americans' inflation-adjusted wages have been declining. The impacts of wages on inflation and inflation on wages are stronger than they have ever been in recent decades, said Conference Board Chief Economist Gad Levanon. The most recent inflation data from the Department of Labor revealed that consumer prices are increasing at a 6.2% clip, continually outpacing economists' expectations and matching rates last seen 3 decades ago. Indeed, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that officials should retire the term transitory as a descriptor for current inflation environment. And the worst part about this is, with Powell, with Yellen, with Biden, even with like the House and Ways Committee, with Warren, with Bernie, and all the rest of these people out there, the government is seeking a solution to a problem that the government caused. No joke. All right, and the last one we're going to do today, fully half of the show left over, by the way. I'm going to have to make some cuts for Monday because we can't do a 4-hour Monday show. But the last one we're going to do for Monday is also on the union end. This is from NPR, of course. Starbucks workers formed their first union in the U.S. in a big win for labor. This is from Alina Selyuka. And make sure, and we haven't read from NPR for a while, so their donations might be drying up, but make sure, because I know that when I say to donate to NPR, every one of you runs right out and sells your first child and everything you own to donate to NPR, because they need their quiet microphones to spread their communist ideas around the country. But hit that donate button for NPR, because it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Starbucks workers have voted to form their first U.S. union. Workers from one store in Buffalo voted to unionize in a watershed moment for Starbucks, which operates 8,953 stores in the U.S. 3 Buffalo area stores held separate union elections. Baristas and shift supervisors from one store voted to unionize 19-8, while workers from a second store rejected unionization 12-8. The third store failed to reach a verdict and faces a legal battle. There, 15 votes were cast for unionization and 9 against, while 7 votes were challenged. Most of the challenges came from the union, which argued some workers who voted weren't regular employees at the location. The election marks one of the highest profile union wins for U.S. restaurant workers, which are among the least unionized in the country. Starbucks workers who voted to unionize will join Workers United, affiliated with the Massive Service Employees International Union. So another big corporate union is about to make a bunch of money. Although not very much, off of 27 employees. Well, have fun. I'd like to see what this does with the price of coffee and what happens with Starbucks. Now, Starbucks, I could see their CEO doing something symbolic, like trying to lower the costs and everything and try to hold the costs low, but this is going to drive prices up. And I don't buy Starbucks anyway, so like I will go without coffee before I will buy Starbucks. I'm a Dunkin' man myself. If I have to go get somebody else's coffee, like I'll make my own before anything else. Because I put a little dash of nutmeg and cinnamon in with the grounds and it makes it taste amazing. But I will make my own before anything else. But if I'm out on the road or something and I need a cup of coffee, it's Dunkin' all the way for me. I will actively avoid Starbucks for some of their social causes and everything else they've done so. And now with this, I will be actively avoiding them even more. But with that, I mean, good luck. Enjoy. I'd love to see what management has to say about this because they can't join the union. But, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then do it. I'd be curious to see just how the finance sheet for the store goes in a year. This might actually make a good experiment. Whether or not the coffee has its prices raised, or whether or not they have to close up, or whether or not this actually turns out as a happy ending. I don't know. We'll see. Or, this is the other one, too. Whether or not this is going to be compulsory membership. Like, and I know we're supposed to be doing live chat right now. I just want to keep with this one little anecdote here before we go. So, I mentioned I've worked with the UFCW in a grocery store. I've mentioned that before. So, I mean, I'm not doxing myself to say that. One thing that happened with that, and it does come with compulsory membership. In a grocery store, because you're working with so many teens, kids, and people who are coming there for part-time jobs, it's encouraged membership. It's heavily encouraged membership. That's the point of this anecdote. But it's not compulsory membership. You don't have to join the union to work for the grocery store that I worked at. I'm not going to give the name, obviously, but you don't have to join the union to work for them. It's heavily encouraged, and in fact, I mean, this was long pre-populist conservative. This was back when being a conservative still meant you were a miserable fucking Bushite, and everything you did had to worship the fucking Bush family and the McCain family and everything else off of this. So, strongly Christian conservative, reformed Christian conservative woman. Still smoked, but you know, I hate to say it, ex-whore woman, in her 50s now. Looking back, ex-hippie kind of thing, strongly Christian conservative, turned into this, turned her life around, all this stuff. Can't watch the movie Dogma because it's blasphemous, that type. Her and I had the conversation because I used to watch that movie all the time, at the time I was working there, because it seemed that every time I watched that movie with a girl, I wound up making out with her. Interesting side story to that. But where I was going with that was, of course, because of the religious views and the governmental views that she had at the time. With the Bushites, she refused to join the union. She didn't really need the job. She, husband had a good pension, had a really good job off of this, just doing this to empty nest syndrome, trying to take up some of the time. So she didn't want to join the union, which is all well and good. And I didn't realize that compulsory union membership was a thing at that time. I was like 19. 20 maybe. But she came to work one particular day, walked in, and on the way in, the union, one of the union guys was standing outside the door, saw her in uniform, ready to come in to punch in, and physically, now this was a 6'2" guy, going against a probably 5'6", 60-something-year-old woman, physically tried to prevent her from coming into the door to work. Physically trying to prevent this woman just from coming in and doing work and then going home for the day. And that's, the reason that I brought this up, looking at the Starbucks thing right now, because this is typically a largely part-time job. If you're doing restaurant work, it's not your career, it's not your full-time job. is this going to be a situation where this is going to be compulsory membership? Are there going to be people sitting there looking to physically oust somebody from coming to work if they don't want to join this union? Or is this just going to be something where we don't question whether or not the people wanted to join the union or not? Are these 8 people in the Buffalo store, are they going to have a say? Are they going to be able to opt out of this? Time will tell. We'll see what happens with that. All right. A lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff to talk about here. Took way longer than I thought I was going to here when I said at 9. We're just going to get these 2 last ones. It'll be real quick. That was 15 minutes ago. It is time for live chat. And before we do that, well, let's see how much we missed off the top of the show first. You guys have been busy. I know we got the 100 messages message here earlier. No, we're all the way back up to where we started from, too. With the exception of Quest message that wasn't up there because I didn't have the chat robot up yet. But, oh, we do have to catch up here because now it's starting to cut off. Wolf336 with the Apu sticker over on the D-Live. Quest Spanning says, I may be able to bring some stupid. Why didn't my good morning from YouTube a few minutes ago show here? Well, I told you why. And we'll leave it to Chilaga right there unless it starts to shift once again here. But let's go with this on Monday. It was a slow week this week, so I challenge you to tell 10 friends about the morning show and see if you can get them in the live chat for next week. Every view counts. Every view helps. And of course, I mean, if you can do it for the Twitch side, I think that'd be really cool because then they watch commercials, but you don't have to. It does. I'm not here to charge you guys to listen to me. If you guys think I do good work, I would appreciate a couple bucks here and there. But I'm not here to, I'm here to tell you what the news is going to be like. From a perspective that's hopefully something similar to you guys. Not necessarily to come back in and say, give me money, damn it. But if you could always help out, it's always cool. It's always really awesome of you. Monday we had Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Spartan 0000, Superior 1, Random Randy, William Vibe, who did join us over on the Twitch side on that day. Thank you, William Vibe. Chilaga 1984, Katie Zed, Tygar 84X, Linda Cloud was our Monday wrap out. Tuesday, and I don't know if the D-Live, by the way, is showing up on here either, because I didn't see Ron Helton on a lot of them, and I know I saw him chat on some of these too, so if it comes down to it and I have to start looking through the live chat specifically, I will do that, just so I can still say thank you to you guys. Because if Restream is not going to give me the information, then I will go back and do it the hard way. On Tuesday, Ben Wild was here. Thus spake Zarathustra, who was very offended by the fact that I didn't watch the chat. Good luck having only 10 viewers. Life to the Max joined us on Tuesday. Katie Zed, Random Randy, Chilaga 1984, Quest Banning. And I know Arvolt and Ron Helton were both here both those days too. And I know Sully Blue was here that day too. So yeah, they're not pulling D-Live on the stats. I guess we'll have to go back and correct that. Chilaga said, good morning, friends. Looks like we got some spammers over here. Looks like we're cutting off again, which is fine. Jopper9 was over here with the hello with the Mickey Mouse. Hi, Jopper9. Wednesday, we had Random Randy, Quest Banning. 80s Kid, our friend from across the pond. Chilaga 1984, Ben Wild. Galactic Nicholas and Glazy were all here. Yesterday I actually did pull from the actual live chat robot because, you know, I noticed the fact that the D-Live wasn't showing up here. So yesterday we had Ron Helton, Arvolt, Katie Zed, Chilaga 1984, Martinosis, Marie Maybe Golay, Random Randy, McConnell Smuggles Coke was here demanding feet, MK Ultra 3330, and Vampire Hunter D. Plus we also had Yo-Yo Man 2491, who says that this that person was 80 years old and couldn't stand the fact that this young man was swearing so much. Well, it's part of the fun is I get to say the stuff that they don't get to say on network television. Oh, all right, let's see what else we have for the day here. More spam robots. Angel Grant, VOY.FYI. Thanks to those of you over on YouTube who have been bouncing some of these people. I haven't seen where you have or not been, but if you guys have been bouncing some of these spam bots over there, that's really cool of you. Thank you very much for that. Randy Crush Saga is here. Hello. Rain Jacks reminded me Don Lemon was also affected by the Jussie Smollett thing. Juicy Smollett, so says Dave Chappelle. Fanning is here. Hey, Randy and Shalaga. Randy says, it doesn't take widespread voter fraud to change an election. There was no voter fraud, though. Most safest and secure election in history. More votes than Barack Obama. Honk honk. Quest Fanning says, extant voter fraud means it can easily become widespread. Randy says, I think it was Arizona that was a pretty close call, and people have confirmed over 1,000 absentee ballots came from non-residential addresses or vacant lots that were also not residential lots. Yes, and they talked about on the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article too, they talked about people voting from commercial areas or commercial buildings or P.O. boxes or stuff like that. Randy says, I still want to know if they looked up the GPS for that postal driver that claimed he was told he was transporting ballots from New York to Pennsylvania. Easy to prove that claim is false, and yet no word. No word. No news. Let's see, what else do we have here? There should be no day of registration. If you didn't make the smallest effort to vote before that day, you're definitely not informed enough to be voting. No, I believe in same-day registration, but there's also purge of the voter rolls too. If you have to have both in order to make it effective. I do like same-day registration, and it's helped me vote in a few instances too. Just, with moves, especially if I moved close to election day, which I did. Not when I moved in. No, actually, when I moved into here too. It's because I moved so close to election day that there was no chance for me to get registered because I wasn't legally a resident of this place when the early registration deadline was cut off in Wisconsin. But I was come election day. And I did move here on an election year too, by the way. Randy says, can I change my vote trended on Google search after the Hunter laptop scandal? There was no Hunter laptop scandal. There was nothing there to see. Comrade, Katie Z is here. Holy crap, what a morning. I'm finally here. Good morning, friends. I'm sorry to hear if there was some bad stuff going on here. Katie Z, MK Ultra, happy Friday. Randy says, accept that decision to fire that Attorney General guy back under Obama. You know what? I told him that if he didn't fire that guy, then he wasn't going to get the $1 billion of defense funding. And a couple days later, son of a bitch. Arvolt is here with the lurk sticker. Arvolt says, I missed it, but has Senator Wicker been discussed this morning? Nuclear first strike. No, but we'll put that on the stack. Senator Wicker. News. No, I missed that entirely. But we won't make that mistake on Monday. That's already stacked up, ready to go for Monday. We're expecting 30 folks at our tree trimming party, Franny and my birthday party, on Saturday the 28th. 30 people. Evil. Don't let de Blasio find out. Randy says, yeah, you're talking about the guy that gave lists of places that aren't okay to hack. Insanium in the Ukrainium, says Quest Fanning. Marie Maybe Golay says our military is a joke. Yes. Appease, says Quest Fanning with the angry face. I blame the civilian administration, but that's just me. Umbrella Man like Neville Chamberlain. Randy says, I'm surprised Biden isn't lobbying for Russia to fully take over Ukraine. How about an autonomous local regional government? You mean like the Chaz? Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone? Or the George Floyd Autonomous Zone? Funny how Trump was a puppet and yet harder on Russia than Obama and Biden so far, says Randy. Russia hasn't been worried about what Germany has had to say since World War II. Also true. War is our chief export. Randy's on fire, 3 for 3. Literally the blind leading the blind, says Katie Z. No boots on the ground. Does that mean biological? Maybe. I hate when people ask the question that was just answered on streams. I damn sure don't want the president doing the same. Well, where am I? It has to do with Viagra's impact on blood flow. It actually was developed as a heart drug, but had the opposite of the desired impact. Katie Z says Pfizer pushing pills again. Yeah, I don't... Is Viagra a Pfizer holding? I should have looked that up. Is Viagra... I'm going to get crazy ads after this. A Pfizer holding. Yes, it is a Pfizer holding. Lucid thoughts, a boner, and a heart attack. Pushing fills, says Quest Fanning. Marie, congratulate Katie for being right. Hey, do we want popularity? Do we buy followers and viewers? What do you think is here? Should we click on that? Or food at homo if you're excluding meat. Nice. 80s Kid says, in other words, they want you to live on birdseed and rice, not meat. The copium is strong with this one, says Randy. Job for Nine's got the already conservative cock suction sticker. I gotta call him. I worked until 9 yesterday, which is 10 on Eastern time, so I didn't get a chance to make the call to the RRC that I promised him that I would. And I hope that he hears this and understands. I'll reach out to him after the show. Quest is keeping the Twitch side open. Thank you. Less than a month's expenses for a year barely had an effect, don't you say? Yeah. Katie Z moved out at 18 and never looked back. Katie Z wants to remind us, free Crystal Kaiser. That's what she wants to remind us. That's what the libertarians over on Twitter tell me. I mean, she's absolutely free because, I mean, she should be free because she's absolutely innocent. Because she self-defended herself against her pedophile, right? Right? Chilaga thanked us for a great week of shows. Katie says, why would you strike with a job market like this? Because you can get another job elsewhere. Absolutely. Striking during a market like this is perfect. Nobody can hire enough people. How would you replace all of them? Yeah, I may or may not be looking myself here just because of the fact that I don't know if I'm going to pull a raise or not right now. As I said the other day, with the inflation, I went from making a decent lower middle class wage, middle to lower middle class wage, to a barely scraping by again. And I'm not comfortable with that. And I only work 5 miles from home. They shouldn't have a union due to very few jobs that couldn't be replaced by almost anybody or a machine. Marie says union leaders are always on the take. Worked for one many moons ago. They aren't on the up and up. Randy says, yep, the people on disability are going to have to go and these fools will be forced by gunpoint to work. Arvolt says, no one who's been under communism wants communism. Randy says, exactly, but their dumb kids do. Proof that public education is meant to indoctrinate. Katie Z says, not gonna lie, if I made more to stay home and work on my hobbies, I would do it in a second. Quest says, the chapter of Economics in One Lesson on the impact of union wages is interesting. The NPR voice, yep. Arvolt says, that's the problem. It's human nature to not work. This has been the bane of human existence since Cain killed Abel. Woofy is over here. Woofy just showed up over the Instagram side as we're reading live chat. Nice shirt, Jay. Always bring your A game with the tees. Yeah, I love my print tees. I saw this on Twitter a few months ago and I said, I want to have one of these. So I bought one. I like it. Thank you, Woofy Productions. Yeah, I saw the chat jump on the Instagram side. The wave button doesn't work. Motherfucker. God damn it. I'm trying to wave at Woofy Productions and the wave button doesn't work. Whatever. Thank you, Zuckerberg Holding. Let's see. Quest says, guess what? The expense to Kellogg's will have upward price pressure on the food at homo non-meat food prices. Yeah. Let's see, Katie. I would want to work on stuff I'm interested in. I literally started crocheting a blanket in February. That's still not complete. I have my yarn and my crochet hooks in my truck because I also want to do some crocheting myself. Because I hear it's calming. I hear it's relaxing. My dad always did it. My grandma always did it. Plus, I need new dish rags. And rather than going out and buying a whole bunch of them, I can make some. And yarn is wicked cheap. Yarn is stupid cheap. I could have an army of new hot pads, because I don't have any of those right now. I could have an army of new hot pads. I could have an army of new dish rags. Maybe even a new blanket. For like 1/10 of what I would buy it at Kohl's for. But I never take the time to sit down and figure out the mechanics of it. I had it down once. But I never sit down and do it. Because I'm always working. Which requires my hands on the mouse or anything else. Like, I can't just... And I know, like Elaine would always tell me, too, that the other big thing would be to sit back and, watch a movie or something. But it's like, okay. I try to do that, but I also have laundry to fold and shit like that. I'm making excuses. I really want to learn how to do this, though. Quest Fanning says $5 coffee, and he runs on Dunkin' too. Shalaga says, I've only been to Starbucks 3 times. I did try Starbucks. I've tried it a couple times. I didn't care for it either. Starbucks logo is also some kind of mermaid witch or something. That's correct. Katie Zed says, my garden would be immaculate. My house would be perfectly clean, and I'd start a YouTube channel about crime. There you go. They use that line, we don't work to live anymore, we live to work. Imagine looking back at history and thinking, now is the time that we work too much. Ooh, you guys have been really busy. Let's see. Marie says they're BS at those. Water that saves a village in Africa at $5 a pop. Starbucks uses chief coffee beans that are over roasted and blended with sugar and cream to make it drinkable. Yeah, and of course, I've taken a break from it for December, but once I'm back on keto, I can't do the sugar anyway. So, let's see. At home I do cold brews and some nice varieties of BRC. I love Run Your Mouth coffee, especially the Rebel beans, aged 30 days in a bourbon barrel. So good. I've never tried Rebel beans. I want to try the Creole brew that I keep seeing advertised. It's not coffee, it's cacao, and it's supposed to be a more stable caffeine rush than coffee, but I can't find it anywhere. I don't want to order it online just yet, but I will if I have to. I can't find it anywhere otherwise, though. Albertsons. I don't do Black Rifle. Just because ideological differences, of course. Albertsons, says Marie. IGA Kroger. They always have those espresso shots because their coffee is such trash. It doesn't have the caffeine you would expect from a coffee drink. Publix. It's all syrup and sugar at the Bucks. Yep. Arvold says, Quest in the area. I order coffee beans from Craftsman's Cliffs Roasters in Connecticut. Give it a try sometime. It's because Matt Damon used to be hot. The Brad Pitt and the Matt Damon and Jennifer Aniston, those are 3 that I never understood. Now, Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, are, of course, are guys, so I'm not supposed to understand why they're so attractive. And Pete Davidson, that's the other one, too. I look at that goofy motherfucker, I'm like, why? Why did he get Ariana Grande and Kim Kardashian? But also Aniston. Like, it's not that she's unattractive, she's just average to me. Fanning says 10% off, Run Your Mouth Coffee Thermodones. Check it out. It'll depend on if it's a right to work state or not. That's New York, so it's going to be a no. Also, while I have my notes out, Righteous Felon, dried meat, January, February 2022, 20% off, healthy 20. Dude, are these people sponsoring me? Why am I giving them their coupon codes here? These people aren't sponsoring me. It's just like why I have my energy drink in a Quick Trip cup and not in the can that's over here, and I only use the can to point out it was made in USA. If these companies are not sponsoring me, their logo doesn't get on the screen. But hey, Righteous Felon, by the way, if you do want to sponsor me, I will read your coupon code on the air. Quest says, I only mentioned those two because I enjoy their products. Randy says, I use Twitch specifically to watch the ad for you. Thank you, Randy, for that. I even have to turn the stream on multiple times, so you end up with 3 or so ad views. Thank you again. Every little ad that you watch on Twitch, it's like a penny, but it's a penny that I didn't have the day before. I actually want to look into my analytics and see what I got, because I've had subscribers through the entire year. I know a couple of those are going to expire here in just a second. But, I've also got the money coming in. So, I mean, it's all good. I enjoy what we see here. Arble says, I try to log into Twitch more often. It's blocked at the office, but I generally start watching at home getting ready. Awesome. YouTube used to be free access on my work computer, but now it's all unrestricted. Marie says, meow. Megnog has joined on the Instagram side, which we'll be wrapping up here in just a second because I got to get myself to work here. But we got to finish the live chat because that's what we did. That's what we do here. I try to avoid doing Twitter on my work computer. I keep my phone handy. Katie Z says, I sent you a Crystal Kaiser article. It's from before Kim Kardashian started the process of changing the history of the case. But keep in mind, that's also got Binger involved, that asshole from the Rittenhouse trial. Wolfie says, what's good, everyone on YouTube? Wolfie came from the Instagram side over to the YouTube. Katie Z said, if you come visit me, I'll give you a crochet lesson. Well, I'll probably keep the yarn in the truck. So, like I said, right now it just depends on the fuel cost. Kai and I put together a small pepper stash in the trunk of my car last week. Nice. Katie Z says, Mr. Z and I had a go bag in our car for years. The only thing I put in my coffee is goat milk. My favorite brand is Pioneer Woman Coffee. I like what the Pioneer Woman does, so I could see that. I could see that being good. What do I have here? I have a bag of Cameron's and I have a bag of Kendra coffee. I gotta get more coffee. Wolfie says, Pete Davidson is allegedly hung like a horse. Okay, that's probably why. But you still have to look up at Pete Davidson. Katie Z said, no, it's a 511 style bag. That's one of Mr. Zed's friends makes. Whoopi says, wow, still so much live chat here. So that's why. Murray says, they aren't hot. They're just famous with money. They're weird looking. Whoopi. It's sufficiently spicy, and that was the deal. Woofy Production says, those women need a horse-sized dong to get off. Thank you, Woofy Productions, for that. Quest says, Davidson must be funny in person. Very funny to trick folks into getting on SNL, where he's not funny. And Quest Fanning will get the last word and says, only after I ordered Run Your Mouth Coffee. Did that guy behind it reach out? I've been on his show. I can probably help get him to... And it looks like he's trailing off here. I don't know if he's sponsored or not. A sense of humor in a guy goes a long way. Sponsor contemporary. There we go. All right, we're done. We're out. We're done with live chat here. Let's change up the music and let's head out for the morning. All right, so thanks everybody for a great week of live chat and a great week watching here. I've been reading through your live chats throughout the week as well, because I always do, because I always see what you guys have to say about this. We had a lot of stuff to go to. I still have half the stack for Monday to go back and go over here, so we'll be done with that here. We're going to head out of here for the day. I got to get myself to work. I'll be going home early tonight, so watch for the new fundraiser for Turn Some Pages Productions. That's going to be coming out here. We'll be going with Give, Send, Go instead of GoFundMe, so go check that out. We are already in works for a new fundraiser for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I just talked to Gina Orlando last night, so look for that coming up probably this spring as well. Definitely go and check that out. I want to raise more money for this. I want to see if we can clear the 2,000 mark. And if Elaine does it and she comes back up with us, if she comes to join us again, the ponytail will go again, but the price will go up to $5,000. $5,000 to cut the ponytail for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention when we do the next 24-hour stream. So definitely come back and look for that. Already looked for guests. I know I talked to Paul about this, so that's going to be coming up in the works here. But go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. If you are over on the Twitch side, stick around. And we're going to go join the Daily Ignoramus already in progress here. So definitely come and check that out. And we will be back here. We'll see if we can fit a game stream in over the weekend here, definitely. But otherwise, we'll be back here on Monday for more contemporary. Monday night for the RedNet show. No idea as to who the guest is going to be yet coming up here, so keep posted here. I'll be reaching out to the R-rated conservative. I think he's going to come back and do this at the end of the show, but that's going to be it for the week here. Thank you guys so much for coming here, hanging out with me. 7:15 weekday mornings, Central Time, of course, for headlines, and stick with us for the Daily Ignoramus here. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.